Hello friends. The biggest tragedy in Lincoln's life was not poverty, his wife, which was also the reason for his becoming president. This is the aspect of Abraham Lincoln's life that most people do not know, but it played the most important role in making him president. The 16th President of America, Abraham Lincoln, is known by most people as a hero for his kindness, struggle to rise from poverty to become president and to get rid of slavery. Most people have knowledge of Lincoln even as he was born in a harsh hut made of wooden rafters, walking miles and borrowing books to read, and at night in a fireplace or in a blacksmith shop used to study in the light of a burning furnace. He worked from pig biting to woodcutting, laboring in the fields, arguably arguing with his city as the most honest lawyer, and then becoming president of the US. These are the things that people know about Abraham Lincoln. His poverty and early political failures, due to which he once retired from politics, are known as the most tragic and tragic events of his life. Apart from all this, a big aspect of his life is such that people remain unfamiliar or know only those who have special interest in Lincoln's life. This is an aspect that some people consider to be the biggest tragedy of their life, and also that if this tragedy had not happened, they would not have become the President of America. This tragedy was his married life. He was married to Mary Todd in 1842 in Springfield Town. William H. Hendron, his closest and his associate in advocacy for 20 years, wrote in Lincoln's biography that the wedding day was the last day of happiness for Lincoln. Talking about Mary Todd, he says that she was a high opinionated, arrogant and dirty woman who knew the whole city to lose her temper. According to him, if human ambitions are recorded through a beautiful picture, then she will take the form of my Todd. Mary's sister, with whom she lived for many years, also said that Mary loved sparkle, power and performance, and she knew she was the most ambitious woman in the world. Hendron says that this woman had amazing ambition and self-confidence, which shows that she had already said many years ago that she would marry the same person who would go on to become the President of America. People used to make fun of her on this matter, but she used to stick to it. He used to say this when no one in his dreams could think of becoming the president of Lincoln, struggling in advocacy. After their marriage in October 1842, they stayed in Springfield for several days in the house of a woman named Catherine. Catherine told Hendron, referring to an incident, that Mary used to treat animals with Todd Lincoln worse than animals. Once at the breakfast table in the morning, she became so angry that she hit a cup of hot tea on Lincoln's mouth in front of everyone. According to Catherine, the shocking thing was that Lincoln did not get angry at this incident, he remained calm. The famous American writer Dale Carnegie also writes about Lincoln's marital life, that only days after their marriage, Mary Todd was often seen screaming at Lincoln, kicking him out of the house with a stick. They say that Mary used to be very angry with Lincoln's dress and lifestyle and was often seen making fun of her in front of people. She used to say, "I don't like the way your long ears are protruding from the head, your nose is not straight, the lower lip is hanging, your arms and legs are very long, while the head is short and you look awful." Mary would always listen to them about their living and ask them to improve it, but Lincoln did not pay attention to it because of his nature. They didn't mind what they wore. Whereas Mary, who belonged to a big family, made a difference. According to Carnegie, no neighbor, friend and relative used to come to his house because of Mary's nature. Even Lincoln's stepmother, whom he loved very much and who lived only 20 miles away from his house, never came to Lincoln's house. It is said that Lincoln himself was nervous about going home after office. He often told his friends that he most hated going home. William H. Hendron writes about the 20 years of routine he spent with Lincoln in his book, which gives an idea of his situation. Lincoln often came to the office at 7 o'clock, and I would understand that an hour later, whenever that happened, a strong wind has passed over the domestic sea and the waves are turbulent. They kept looking at the sky with their feet. They would not even look at me when I came. They would answer my good morning with a "Hoon." I would immediately busy myself with work, but the presence of their sorrow and stress was so clear and their silence so meaningful that I would get stressed myself. I would leave the room on some pretext. In such a situation, he would be left alone with his sadness. By the time I came back after an hour, some client would have arrived and the clouds of their sadness would have been removed. I would go home to eat something during lunch, but Lincoln always ate biscuits and cheese brought from the neighborhood store. In the evening, I would leave the office, but they did not go even after this and used to spend my time narrating stories to people on the stairs of the office. When everything went off, the light burning in the office till late night used to cheat them to be there. When the whole world was in a state of sleep, then the tall man, who was to become President of America one day, was found wandering on the deserted streets. Late in the night, he would enter his house, which the world would call home. Gets happiness. Some people can say that this picture has been carved too much. But I would say that those who say so are not familiar with Lincoln's truth. It was because of Mary Todd's behavior that many of Lincoln's friends and many White House staff defined him with terms like wildcat, female wolf, witch, and devil. Some people also considered him psychopathic. These people argued that Mary's parents were cousins and sisters, so perhaps such tendencies had taken place in her. It is said that when Lincoln was mourning in Rashtrapati Bhavan after being shot, Mary went to him crying and started waving at his head. Lincoln started groaning more. After this, the officer and a close confidant of Lincoln asked Mary Todd to move away from there. The reason for Mary Todd's behavior. Even though some people try to define Mary's behavior towards Lincoln in their own way. However, there was a big incident behind it for which Lincoln was largely responsible. In 1839, Mary first met Lincoln in Springfield. However, at the time she was close to Stephen A. Douglas, a rival of Lincoln in the presidential election. At that time, Douglas was like a rising star, and he was obviously the first choice of Ambassador Mary. Douglas proposed marriage to Mary. But they recognized him in time and they kept distance from him. In order to arouse Douglas' jealousy, Mary grew closer to Lincoln. But when she saw Lincoln's eloquence and political acumen, she decided to marry him. On January 1, 1841, both were married. But, a few months before the wedding, Lincoln understood that this woman is not right for him, and if this marriage happens, his life will not be any less than hell. However, Lincoln of simple nature was also afraid to say this to Mary. Hendron writes that he explained this to Mary one day after much persuasion from friends. But it did not yield any result as his tender heart melted on seeing the weeping Mary. However, even after this, he was afraid of the idea of marrying Mary. Many of his friends tell that he used to be so much disturbed by those days that he had even given up food. His health was falling day by day. They used to sit for hours looking at the sky. Finally, on January 1, 1841, the day came when they were married, but Lincoln did not attend the wedding. According to Hendron, this incident shook the self-esteem of a woman living in false glory like Mary. Lincoln stayed away from Mary for 2 years after this incident and did not meet her. He also suffered from depression, assuming himself responsible for this incident. It is said that during this time people started thinking of him as mentally ill. A friend who lived in his pocket had taken out his friends because during this time he started talking about committing suicide. He had written a letter to the state legislature at that time, of which he was a member, saying that he is so sad at this time that if this misery is distributed to the people of his state, then no one will be seen laughing. However, his condition gradually improved with the help of friends. But, in his mind, he wanted Mary to marry someone else and be happy. Mary Todd, sitting on the other side feeling of vengeance, vowed to marry Lincoln. About a year and a half later, he called Lincoln through a friend to a friend's house. He shed tears in front of Lincoln. Lincoln once again melted seeing Mary's tears, and it was from here that his interaction started. After a few months, Lincoln had to agree to marry Mary despite not wanting to. One of his friends says that on the wedding day, Lincoln looked as if he was going to be murdered. Referring to the day, Hendron says that while Lincoln was getting ready for marriage, when a friend's son asked him where he was going to hell with his son. However, many American experts also say that even if Mary has avenged her insults with Lincoln all her life. However, it is also true that if Lincoln had not been married to him, he would not have become the President of the United States. He says that Mary was already too ambitious and had dreams of the White House. He saw this possibility in Lincoln only after Douglas. These people say that Lincoln was very loose in political activity and thinking. It was Mary who always encouraged him to achieve political success. She was the one who got Lincoln nominated for membership of the House of Representatives for the first time as soon as he got married. Even after losing the Senate elections twice, it was not Mary who allowed her to retreat. Ideas of Abraham Lincoln. Whatever you are, be noble. I'm sure to walk slowly, but never back. If you break the trust of your citizens public once, you will never be able to get their respect and respect again. Make sure that your feet are in the right place, then stand up straight. If you want peace, then avoid being popular. Ordinary looking people are the best people in the world, this is why God creates many such people. Always keep in mind that your resolve to succeed is more important than any other resolution. You give me 6 hours to cut a tree and I will spend the first 4 hours in sharpening my axe. Friends expect you to say this. You must have liked it and how much you have motivate. Please tell through comments. Any questions and suggestions are welcome. Bye dear friends.